This is the greatest time in history to be a builder. However, it comes at a cost, and that cost is a lot lower than it traditionally has been. You can build an app from idea to production for just hundreds of dollars. You can go from concept to an MVP or a V1 in a fraction of the time that it used to take. However, it still costs money to do so. And you might be curious about what does it actually cost to use these different vibe coding tools, AI assisted platforms, and how do they vary from each other. So in this video, I want to cover that. I want to peel back the layers behind Lovable, Bolt, Replit. What does it look like to use these tools and how do they compare with each other? So if that sounds good, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you turn on your notifications, and then let's get right into this video. So starting with Lovable, if you have been watching what they launched, put out Lovable Cloud and AI. So you can now create a backend within the Lovable platform. And it turns out that this backend is actually powered by Supabase. So basically, rather than having to go directly into Supabase and attach that backend, or even into having to integrate it on your own, because Lovable did used to have an option for integrating with Supabase, but it was still more technical than it is now, to where now it's all basically abstracted out and you don't even know that it's Supabase that they're working with. And so on the platform in the back end here, you can actually see here the database, the users you have, the storage, which would be for images and other kinds of content that would go there, the secrets. And this now, however, may have you asking, well, what does it cost to use this? If you were to build an app with Lovable, and it might not even take you all that long, but what is it going to cost if you have this on the platform for a year, for example? So you know that Lovable charges for its basic plan $25 a month, and then if you're on a pro plan, then it's $50. Business plan is $50, and then they have this usage-based approach for the cloud and the AI. Well, right now they have a promotional, basically, because they just launched. And so you get $25 of a free balance for the cloud. You get $1 free balance for the AI. And this is going to ultimately shift after they've refined their model. And so what does $25 really get you? I mean, you've used 19 cents for what I currently have on here. I'll say that if you're building out a V1 of your app, then you're probably going to be completely fine. And quite frankly, this is a promotional here. So you're not going to really spend all that much early on if you're using Lovable for your app. I think something to be careful about is if you are going to be storing a lot, especially like content like images and videos. The multimedia stuff is oftentimes what can start to add up and can cause the cost to be exorbitant. And so I would just be mindful of the storage. But early on, if you don't have many users in the beginning, which is going to be taking you time to build this up over time, you'll probably be fine. So over the course of the year, you're spending that $25 a month to be on the platform, and then I imagine it's probably similar to if you are using Supabase directly, because again, this is really a Supabase. The backend is really a Supabase wrapper, where it's actually just Supabase on the backend. I would say the difference will be that it's maybe a little bit less efficient because it's all abstracted out. So whereas with Supabase, using a Supabase on a pro account is $25. And then so any additional projects that you put on it, you then have to pay an additional $10. And then they have like add-ons that can drive up the price as well. And interestingly, Supabase can start to get expensive again for what I actually just mentioned, that storage. When you're storing the multimedia, that can drive the price up. And once you kind of max that out, as far as if you have a lot of multimedia being stored, then you may have to drive up even like the cost of what you're paying beyond usage to like a different tier, or find a way to free up more space. And so I say this all to say that, again, in the beginning, you're probably fine using Lovable Cloud. And if you are, again, building an MVP, a V1, then it's like not a bad route to go down. If you want complete flexibility, then you're going to want to use a back-end platform, something like Firebase, for example, is a good and popular one. You've got InstantDB is one, and then you've also got Convex. These are all databases backends that I recommend that work in the cloud. I think if you're just kind of getting into this, if you're a beginner, then it just makes sense to use what is offered on these vibe code platforms already. And then Bolt.new is a similar kind of scenario. So $25 for their sort of basic paid model, $50 if you want more tokens. And then Bolt.new actually did something very similar to what Lovable did. So now you can also get the back end with Bolt integrated into the platform. And so they got Bolt Cloud, and it's literally the same thing in the sense that they are a super base wrapper on the back end, and they give you a certain usage for database is unlimited, custom domains unlimited, but then you pay for bandwidth for storage. So like we compare, say, application file storage here, which is 1 GB, to then on Lovable, it doesn't break it down as in as granular a way. Bolt actually says, okay, you get 1 GB of application storage, you get 250 megabytes of database storage, 100 hours of compute time. So that's something that I like about that, and they have documents around their database and what that looks like. But again, they both use Supabase, so it's probably similar. Now, just moving on to Replit. So Replit, $25 again for their base plan. So we're pretty much at $25 across the board. I'll say that Replit is significantly more expensive than Lovable and Bolt, just off of the AI agent. So the Replit agent, you see here, my monthly credit's $21 of $25. That's just from one project. Like I did a build the other day. I mean, if you saw the YouTube video I did around doing like a data an analyst agent, that was $21, and just for that one project, which is crazy. And I find that pretty much every time I use Replit, I end up using quite a lot as far as the usage. You see here, $20.83 just for the agent usage, just from one sitting, is crazy. That's not to mention any other kind of usage. That's not to mention what any of their other offerings. What I would say about Replit, and something I really do like about Replit, is that they're definitely like a one-stop shop in terms of what they offer, and they're really working hard to become a place where you can manage your whole app and business just from their platform. I highly recommend taking a look at an interview earlier today with the CEO Amjad and Alex Hormozy, where they're talking about funnels and they're talking about business applications. And Amjad was actually going through the sort of sales strategy around Replit, but what I was very intrigued by and what I liked was the thought around the business aspect of like, what does it look like to be able to go from idea to app and then start to really build your business around it, down to like the landing page and the funnel and so on. And so Replit has had the ability to host your application, have the back end. They have the database here, and this is an example of they're not working with Supabase for this one. And then they also have all these different connectors, which is very novel, right? So you can connect to Google Drive, you can connect to Gmail, Notion, YouTube, right? They're starting to build out their MCPs here. And so Replit in some ways actually feels like one of these automation workflow platforms as well. It's kind of like that merge of the workflow automation with the AI. And it's decent, and it's decent. I'd say that if the agent weren't so expensive, if the Replit agent weren't so expensive, then Replit would rank higher in my list of the AI tools you should be primarily using. But I feel like it's a great middle ground between the most user-friendly platforms and then the ones that are more kind of technical and engineering heavy. And even to the point now where Replit, you can actually import your code from other platforms. You can import your code from Bolt specifically, directly migrate from Bolt, migrate from Lovable, migrate from Versailles. Put here, migrate your site to make it production ready. So they're really riding on this idea of like, come here to deploy your app to like a live environment, all the way down to being able to have the security in place and have the privacy there. You can get a Replit based domain and authentication and everything. And again, Lovables and some of these other platforms, Bolts are beginning to kind of go in that direction as well. But Lovable already kind of has all of that. Their agents is just very expensive, and you saw what the usage based looks like as far as their storage. And so again, early on, you're probably not spending that much on the cloud and the back end. And so again, I'd mostly be concerned about just like the agent pricing. Cursor, you have $20 a month plan, and then it goes usage based from there. And so for Cursor, I've been pretty good this month. I had 1 month where I went over $100 and I was on a $20 a month plan. There is now a way of being able to kind of bring those prices down with Cursor. So you see here, I've used $11 worth of Cloud Sonnet 4.5 this month, and that was basically my biggest expense so far. $16, and that's 20 of the dollars is included in the plan. With Cursor, I'm about to pull up a project right here. You can actually now use the Codex. There's a Codex extension. So if you go off to the left side and you're just gonna hit extension, you can actually download the Codex OpenAI Codex agent, and that will then allow you to open up the composer for the Codex agent. And so you can decide whether you want to use the Codex agent or you want to use the Cursor composer agent, which allows you to toggle between different models. And so now I'm mostly using Codex, and Codex is an exceptional model. It's a little bit slower than some of the other ones that exist, like Cloud Sonnet 4.5, but it does the job. And I've been very happy with the results and experience, and it's brought my cost down completely because it's part of your subscription to ChatGPT. So you're paying just the $20 to ChatGPT, and you can code with Codex for hours on it. I've gone they do rate limit you at some point, but I've gone as long as like 5-6 hours before getting rate limited for like 36 to 48 hours. And so if you're going that approach, I mean, you're only really spending, I guess you got to factor in the OpenAI or the ChatGPT account and then the Cursor account. So you're spending probably about $45 total. And then your back end is sitting on a platform like a Firebase, which is largely going to be usage based, and that's probably the most actually cost effective, but it's also the most sort of technical and sort of like custom. And so for the build portion, that might be like a good amount to budget. Which, listen, I mean, you're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars traditionally to do what you can do now for a couple of hundred. But then you got to, of course, factor in the marketing and what you're putting in for distribution. So I hope that was helpful. I definitely do encourage building on Lovable and looking at it like you don't have to do everything in the beginning, right? You can build something, put it out there, test it. Maybe not even give it to all the potential users, especially if there's the demand for it. Like, you can really pace yourself with this. And I think that you do want to be mindful from the database standpoint, because where that information lives, it's like it's easy to move the code from place to place, but it's like where stuff is actually stored. You do have to be mindful of that, because it's kind of like dating a database, if you will. But migrations are typically possible. And so, yeah, that's just some insight on the cost of using these vibe coding tools. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.